This is Callie Jurdot, and this is my score analysis of the Kyrie from Schubert's Mass in G. So this is my first page, and the way that I kind of laid it out is that forte pianos in the instruments are highlighted in orange because they're important. Prominent or important rests are in green. Other entrances are in blue, and some piano dynamic markings. Transition notes that need to be brought out are in yellow. And some of the endings of words, like the ends on the end of a liaison, are put on the correct beat of the measure. The solo by the soprano is highlighted in purple. And I noticed that the oboe 1 and 2 largely follow the soprano and alto parts, and the cello, bass, and organ largely follow the bass voice. There's a piano dynamic marking throughout in most voices and the instruments. There are some forte pianos thrown in at different spots. And just as a precursor to the piece, the Kyrie eleison means Lord have mercy, and Christe eleison means Christ have mercy. So here's my first page. I have everyone starting right here on a piano dynamic marking and emphasizing the K at the beginning. And then I have the N written in right here for where they're supposed to cut off on beat 2, and then there's the rest on beat 3. I highlighted in yellow some of the transitioning notes that need to be brought out. Down here in the instrumental is where the forte pianos are, to make sure that I get those in there. There's prominent rests like this one right here that needs to be given its proper weight before we turn into the Kyrie again in the faster moving notes. Again, here's an N marking. Going on to the next page, kind of the same thing, starting up here with the K for that entrance and the transitioning notes in the tenors, and then also between the altos and sopranos, followed by the N cut off at the end of beat 2 so that we don't go to the N too soon. There are also some accents written in that are in green, like right here where the specific words should be accented. And then the rests that are prominent, here's another accent marking. Transitioning notes. Here's where the solo starts in section A, in measure 3 of section A, and it starts here, and there's also a solo part down here in the cello, bass, and organ. And then going on to the next page, the soloist continues through here. I noticed especially that in the recordings that I listened to, the soprano did not stop and continued into this measure right here. Down at the bottom, there's forte for the soprano solo, and then she goes down to piano, and then 2 beats of rest before the entrances start. There's kind of a little back and forth call and response section between the other voices, and that continues over to the next page. As you can see, there's some more entrances highlighted, some more accents, and the end markings. Then we have forte pianos that are in the actual singing parts, so those are all highlighted in orange, and then some important rests that I felt would probably be a little bit problematic are highlighted in green. And then moving on to the bottom of that page into section 3, start with the K entrance right here and the transitioning notes. It begins again. I didn't highlight every single K entrance because after you give them the cue for the first one, it should follow through. Maybe I need to mark those. Going through these 2 rests right here, I thought this might be a little bit troublesome, so I highlighted them in red just because there's a rest at the end and then another one at the beginning of this one instead of ending on the end of this measure and starting right here. Going on to the bottom of that page, a few more transition notes. There's a K marking. In the recordings I listened to, there's a ritardando put in here into the instruments, so I marked that in as well. Going on to the last page, there were a few more transition notes, and then ending with an N right before beat 2, and that is what I have for the score analysis of the Kyrie of Schubert's Mass in G.